Welcome to Health Matters. I'm Kathy Andrews. Today we're discussing children, behavior problems, values, expectations. With the holidays upon us, this can be an extremely stressful time for children. And today some children are spending time with both parents separately. Or maybe the family is going through a divorce or financial problems, foreclosure. Maybe there's a death in the family. So, some families are dealing with all of these cutesy commercials we're seeing on TV, and their friends are supposedly having a wonderful time, but at home, they are going through turmoil. Everything may look good on the outside, but behind closed doors, it's another issue. So what do you want for your children? Who do you want your child to become? Do you want them to be happy when they're adults, become responsible adults? Well, the actions you take with your children during their formative years is the foundation for their future. Here to talk with me today about children is Dequana Mack. She is a licensed master's social worker with Family Health Centers, and Stacy Graham. She's a licensed professional counselor. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Tell me, before we get into specific problems about divorce and this and that, what are you seeing at Family Health Centers? What kind of problems are our kids going through now?
At Family Health Center, you see a lot of children who turn to video games, parents using video games to raise them. You see a lot more children being stressed and depressed and having anxiety and mental issues that you probably wouldn't think that children are experiencing.
I mean, why are they having anxiety and what specifically is causing it?
Well, it could be anything from family dynamic, parental issues, financial stress, stress in the school, bullying. It could be a number of any things.
Stacy, you were going to say something?
Oh, I agree with Ms. Mack. There's so many issues that impacts children's emotional and behaviors that sometimes we ignore that are happening because children tend to act out more so than express what's going on with them verbally.
But they see what's going on. Before the show, we were talking about a friend of mine who's going through a divorce. She has a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. The 6-year-old came up one morning, the mother and father, they were arguing, and the 6-year-old told the father, "Father, could you please go to work and stop arguing with mother?" And the 12-year-old told the mother, "I'm tired of seeing you crying." So children watch, they listen, and they know if the house is going through foreclosure. So what do you recommend a parent do? Are they open with the child and say, "Listen, this is what we're going through. You're going to be okay." But what's your advice to a parent who may be struggling with divorce or finances or just typical family issues that we all have, Lord? We just went through Thanksgiving, okay? And I was on Facebook right before Thanksgiving and it had a little joke on there. And it had a grandmother crying, "This is how your grandmama be when everybody get along and put their differences aside, okay? And get your attitude together before you go in." Right. But so people have a lot of frustrations and they have a lot of built up problems, especially during the holidays. What would you suggest a parent do when they're going through struggles and the kids are watching? They know what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. I think first with divorce, a lot of times we think it just involves the husband and the wife. And children often get neglected in the process because it affects them too. They're witnessing it, they see it, and oftentimes what they're experiencing emotionally is often ignored. So I think that children, the family as a whole, needs to be involved in some type of counseling just to help kids adjust as well with the changes that are getting ready to take place in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So do you find married couples coming in with their children to talk with you about their struggles? Are they open?
No.
More so than often not. And the only time that I've seen where it's done is if a judge has actually ordered it to be done. And usually by then the emotional turmoil has been so great that there's usually a lot of issues that need to be dealt with at that time.
And tell me this, is there a difference between African Americans who come in for counseling and other races? Because I would think that African Americans are less likely to seek counseling than others. Do you see that?
A tad bit, but not much. You'll see that other ethnicities are more open to counseling, and there is a stigma in the area that they don't want anybody in their business. I have been told that. We don't want anybody in our business.
And they know your business anyway.
They know it anyway.
You know, because when you go, people can feel and sense and tell when you're in distress.
Absolutely.
And people always say, I don't want anybody in my business. But in the black community in particular, people know your business anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they know your mama or somebody's gonna tell them, or your sister or somebody's gonna reveal what's going on. And so I think it's best just to be open about what the situation, and especially with your immediate family, and move on.
And sometimes it's a matter of trust, building that trust. And that's the biggest obstacle whenever we're working with families, is establishing the trust that these services are confidential. I cannot share, your private information, but withholding it and not getting any help is just as bad as not trusting anyone with things that are going on in your life.
So can anyone come in, and if they're having a problem and get your services, can anyone just walk in and say, I want to see Miss Mack or Miss Graham about some stress?
Yes.
I assume there's an insurance issue with that too, but anyone can call in and get counseling.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of depression, especially during this time of year, because Christmas is, all we see are the commercials and the shopping and the families, or everything is hunky-dory, but they're not. A lot of people don't have family. Perhaps they're grieving the death of a loved one, or they don't have the money to buy the new trinket or the iPad for their child. So are you seeing more people come in during the Christmas time?
It increases at the Christmas time, but you can see the levels of stress increase at during Christmas time as well. When parents or families are going through situations as such during the holidays, the most important thing is to be honest with your children. If you can't afford it, let them know that, because 9 times out of 10, they already know that they can't afford it, and children, sometimes that stress can backfire on children. Well, it's my fault that mom is going through financial issues. It's my fault that mom can't pay her bills. It's my fault, because if I didn't want that iPad or let her know that I want that iPad, she wouldn't work so hard or spend all her bill money trying to get that iPad.
So it's making the kids feel guilty.
Right.
And more stressed out when you don't reveal, you don't have a discussion with them.
Right.
And we're so materialistic. I know I'm materialistic.
Yep.
I mean, and when you're materialistic and when you don't have that family time, you're laying the foundation for your child to be materialistic.
Right.
And I'm blaming my mama and my daddy. She tells me, girl, you better stay out of belt. I blame her all the time, for my materialism. But, we shopped all the time when we were growing up. We shopped. We like buying. And I find that I like buying things now. But we'll talk more about that, about laying a good foundation, when we come right back. You're listening to Health Matters. We'll be right back.
Are you a coffee or tea drinker? Did you know that the prevalence of dental problems increase after drinking caffeine or sugary drinks? Prevent dental problems. Family Health Matters is the place for all your dental needs. Dental hours are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Fridays. For more information, visit www.myfhc.org.
Asthma is one of the most common lifelong chronic diseases. 1 in 14 Americans live with asthma, a disease that affects the lungs, causing repeated episodes of wheezing, breathlessness, chest tightness, and coughing. Asthma cannot be cured, but it is possible to manage successfully by knowing the warning signs of an attack, avoiding things that may trigger attacks, and following the advice of your healthcare provider. Let Family Health Centers assist you with your healthcare needs by scheduling an appointment today at 803-531-6900.
Hi, I'm Antoine Ward, and I'm here to share some safety tips with you for this holiday season. This holiday season, remember to always stay alert when shopping outdoors. At places such as malls and markets, always remember to lock your vehicle and hide your valuables. And this holiday season, remember to celebrate responsibly when attending events such as holiday parties and outdoor gatherings. Safe travels during this holiday season. This is a friendly message from your friends here at B90.3 FM. Have a safe and happy holiday season.
This is Paul Bryant, Director of Athletics at South Carolina State University. When I'm out and about, I keep my station locked to B90.3 FM.
Welcome back to Health Matters. I'm Kathy Andrews here with Daquana Mack. She's a licensed master social worker at Family Health Centers, and Stacey Graham. She is a licensed professional counselor at Family Health Centers. We were talking about materialism before we went to the break, and honestly, I've seen it with family members and friends. When the child is given everything, they have no financial responsibility, no work ethic, even if they become professionals. I have a friend now, he is a dentist, and he has lost everything, buying Rolls Royce and Porsche and living beyond their means. But that's how he grew up. And so, I even mentioned it to him one time, you've got to come down, with the stock market going down and the housing market, you've got to come down, okay? We all can't have everything we want. Some people can't come down. So when you are materialistic, when you give your child everything, just remember you're laying the foundation to perhaps ruin that child's life, because this person that I'm talking about, his life is basically ruined. Mm-hmm. His wife has left him. He's lost his house, lost just about everything. That's him on the phone calling Clarence right now. Clarence is our producer. But anyway, the materialism and the values. So I always talk about the movie Soul Food, because that's where, that's how I grew up. Mm-hmm. We all ate at the dinner table. And then afterwards, the kids were told to go outside. Now the kids are on the iPad. And you were talking about values, Daquana.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, do kids have values now, do you think?
Well, you don't see many kids having values now, because now they feel that they're entitled to everything. Children just have their hand out, and when they can't get it, they throw temper tantrums. Parents now feel guilty for not being able to give children what they didn't have as young ones. And you hear a lot of them say, I just want to give my child what I didn't have. I just want my child to have a better life than me. Well, your child can have a better life than you and experience different things, but that doesn't mean that you have to give them everything. Because then when you give a child everything, it doesn't mean much to them. And they'll always want more, always want the latest fashion, always want the newest toys. And then you become a pack rat. Because
That's
it's
right.
like, we have these things, we just throw them to the side.
And you get a lot of stuff.
Throw them to the
you
side.
get a lot of stuff.
And they don't mean anything to
They
us.
become hoarders.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They get on this reality show hoarding,
Right.
and you see them. I truly believe that is true, that, when you don't spend time with your children. My best memories are going fishing with my grandmother. Mm-hmm. Though I didn't fish, I would just pester her. But I remember going to the pond and eating with the family and taking pictures. And that's how I developed my skills as a photographer, when I would go and with my grandparents and that kind of thing, and you bond with them. Mm-hmm. And I wish I'd spent more time with them. I don't, the clothes, I can remember going to buy clothes with my grandmother and her asking me, do you want anything? And I was like, no, I'm bored. Mm-hmm. I don't want any more clothes. Mm-hmm. I've got enough. And I said that as a child, although I still buy now. But kids get bored. Mm-hmm. And Anderson Cooper, who is on CNN, says his mother who's a Vanderbilt, is not going to leave him a dime. He said, you see all these rich kids now when, they don't have to work for a living? He's an example of someone with a good work ethic. And his mother did a good job. She could have given him anything. But he says, she told me, I'm not going to give you anything. So if you're giving your kid everything, you're wrong. You're doing a kid a disservice. Right. You may, and don't feel guilty about it. Don't you think? And what about the electronics? I know at family dinners, nephews and nieces, they're on the iPad. They're not at the dinner table. I make my nieces and nephews, I say, put it down right now. Right. What are you doing in school? And they're like, oh. And then they start talking about school, and they enjoy talking about school. And, well, this is what I do at school. And then I'll joke with them, do you have a girlfriend? And that kind of thing. So I do believe there's a disconnect with the electronics. But how do you tell a parent that? I mean, what do you do? How do you tell parents? And I was talking with the midwife at Family Health Services. Her child, I think her child was 17 years old, pregnant. And she was telling the mother about pregnancy and the problems with a high-risk pregnancy. And the mother was on her phone the entire time. And she said, she wasn't paying attention to anything she was saying. So you've got children raising children now, too. Right. So what's the answer, counselors? You guys have all the degrees. What's the answer?
Well, first of all, parents model the behaviors that they model are the behaviors that their children will pick up. So it starts with the parents, and parents being involved and proactive in their child's life. So when you talk about going back to the dinner table, that's the time of fellowship. That's the time when you ask the questions, who's your best friend? What's going on at school? What's been happening? Because most times when crisis erupts, parents are the last to know. And that's because there's not enough communication going on. Instead, most parents feel guilty because they have to work. So in place of working are the electronics, and those electronics become the children's best friends.
The babysitter.
The babysitter.
The babysitter. You mentioned that, a lot of parents, now we're seeing more kids committing suicide, bullying, and the parents are not aware of what's going on. How can you not know that your child is contemplating suicide? I can recall a friend, she was a psychiatrist, and her son committed suicide. So it doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing. I guess she was so consumed with the problems of other people, she didn't think about what was happening at home. But I remember asking my husband at the time, well, what was going on that her son committed suicide? Here she is, an excellent psychiatrist, and yet she didn't know what was going on at home. Do you see that? Do you see a lot of professionals who just, they go, and plus they go by McDonald's every day, they get the Happy Meal, they go home, they got this routine, but they don't, really know.
Well, sometimes there are always warning signs, but then again, children as well as adults can become very excellent at masking their feelings. So again, I think it goes back to having good communication, good relationships with your children.
Go ahead.
I think that's an excellent point. It's probably a different conversation for a different day. But when careers does play a part in the rearing of your children, if you put more emphasis on your career and then coming home and just wanting that time for yourself, you forget about your children. That's when you buy the electronics and you allow them to look at television instead of you going in and talking to them about their day and talking to them about their feelings. Well, how's friend? Are you being bullied and stuff like that? Because kids hold on to that, and they can use the iPad, but then in their mind they're thinking, well, maybe mom doesn't want to talk to me. Maybe she doesn't care about how I'm feeling,
And is mom in denial? Are
Right.
parents in denial?
We'll talk more about children, suicide, Christmas, financial issues, divorce when we come back. You're listening to Health Matters.
Do you know the symptoms of a stroke? Blurred vision, difficulty speaking, dizziness, weakness in the arms and legs, and loss of balance are all symptoms of a stroke. If you think you're experiencing a stroke, time is essential in the prevention of long-term disability. Family Health Center wants to prevent a stroke from happening to you. More information about stroke prevention and Family Health Center is available at myfhc.org or 803-531-6900.
Blood pressure is the force of blood vessels as blood flows through them. This pressure naturally rises and falls during the day, but when it is constantly too high, it is considered high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a silent killer that sometimes has little to no symptoms, so you may not be aware that it's damaging your arteries, heart, and other organs. Let the Family Health Center help you monitor and control your blood pressure by calling 803-531-6900 to schedule an appointment.
A recent study said 71% of employers would not hire someone with a bad smile or bad breath. Good oral hygiene not only helps you find your dream job, but can also give you confidence. You can schedule an appointment at Family Health Centers today. Dental hours are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. on Fridays. Get the job and the beautiful smile with the help of dental professionals at Family Health Centers. For more information, visit www.myfhc.org.
Holiday joy can also bring holiday danger. To make sure you and your family are safe this holiday season, follow these safety tips. Remember, when driving at night, always watch out for deers and other animals. There are also a lot of eating during the holidays, so make sure knives and forks are out of reach for children. Make sure ornaments are hung higher on the branches of Christmas trees so kids can't reach them. It can be fatal if ingested. Always leave the porch light on to fend off would-be thieves. This is a friendly message from your crew at B 90.3 FM.
Hi, this is former Miss South Carolina State University, Sadia Robinson, and you're listening to WSSB 90.3 FM.
Welcome back to Health Matters. I'm Kathy Andrews here with Taquana Mack. She's a licensed master's social worker, and Stacy Grimm, a licensed professional counselor, both at Family Health Centers here in Orangeburg, South Carolina. We're talking about children and depression and suicide. And during the break, I mentioned that I have a relative who committed suicide. She was very depressed. And then her granddaughter committed suicide. We tried everything. She was taking medication. She had gone to counseling. But in fact, before the granddaughter committed suicide, this was in New York City, and they called us, and we were getting ready to go to New York to see if we could help, and she jumped off of a 20-story building. And the same way her grandmother jumped off a 20-story building. And we hear stories of Rick Warren, the author of the Purpose-Driven Life. He got all kinds of counseling for his child. And the Osmonds, her son committed suicide. So there can be some things that you really need to get help, and you really need medication. You can't just talk it out of a person. It's an illness, and we were talking, Stacy, during the break about, we used to just Uncle Fester used to be in the room. And if you remember the movie Soul Food, they had Uncle Fester in the bed in the room. I think every African American who grew up probably in the 70s and 80s, they had somebody like that. There was somebody at my grandmother's house. He was just there, and we always fed him, and he was there. We called him Uncle Joe. He wasn't Uncle Joe, but he was just somebody who stayed around, and he was basically our babysitter. He was, he was our nanny but he was Uncle Joe. But Uncle Joe had issues, and no one ever talked about it. But and I think about it now. He had alcohol problems, and during that time, and no one thought about maybe should have gotten Uncle Joe some help. So do you see, especially during this time, a lot of alcohol and drug abuse problems?
The holidays can be, very stressing for individuals. We have seasonal blues that we call seasonal affective disorder. Lots of times people just suffer just from seasonal depression. The finances, of course, during this time of the year can be very stressful. So the holidays, if you've lost someone during the holidays, it can also be very stressful for individuals. If you don't have the family or good family support, that can also bring on stress.
And then you find that people, as I was laughing about Facebook, people bring up things from 20 and 30 years ago, and you got that Aunt Alice who will come in and start talking, well, you know what happened when you were married to him, Lewis. Remember what happened to that? You don't want to get into that? You got your relatives that are sort of, I don't know what you call them, but they instigators,
Right.
Instigators who like to cause trouble. So how do you deal with a relative who maybe? I remember I had a relative who sat at my bar, and I have this huge bar in my kitchen, and I was having this big dinner, and I was trying to be happy, had my smile on, my little fake smile. How everybody okay? And she looked at me. She said, "Always something with you." I'm like, really? So you colored your hair, huh? And I want to tell her so bad, what'd you do with your hair? But and then she said, and I had broken my leg. She said, always something with you. Well, what's the square footage of this house? I'm like, I don't know the square footage. Well, mine is 6,000 square feet. I was like, well, I didn't measure it. You have your people. Yeah. I'm being truthful now. You got people like that. They want to up you on. You get a BMW, they get a Mercedes, or they try to, So how do you deal with the contentious relatives that say things to you, and you just want to say, you want to be Muhammad Ali, but your mama is in the corner saying, all right now, y'all be good. So how do you deal with the contentious relative? What do you say with the relative who are someone in your immediate family who says something to you, and you should keep the peace? And I smiled. I was like, oh, everything is fine. And inside I'm going,
Kathy, I think you did about the best thing. We all would do that. We all have that relative. You're right. That always want to bring up the past and your little house and my big house compared to your old car and my new car. I think you did about the best thing. Bite your tongue. Bite your tongue.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to do what we teach our children to do, and our children that we counsel. Good self-control.
Self-control. And self-confidence.
Exactly.
I think one thing we need to do, regardless of how big your house is or whatever, and I've lived in mansions and I've lived in cabins. And it does not matter, folks.
Being happy with who you are.
Be happy with who you are. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or whatever. People who have money can be the most miserable people.
Right.
I've met that when I worked with Black Entertainment Television, I met some miserable entertainers who were making millions and millions of dollars. And you would think that they would be the happiest people on earth. I can recall asking Halle Berry advice on men, and she said to me, "You asking me?" So don't talk about Halle Berry. I like Halle Berry. Okay, Clarence.
And I think too, we've just seen that with Charlie Sheen, with everything that's been going on with Charlie Sheen.
Look at him, multi-billionaire, multi-billionaire, and he can't control with drugs and alcohol just taking over. And his father. I met his father once. His father was an activist, a very good actor. And he grew up with everything, so and maybe that was a problem too.
Right.
I don't know the answer, but I one thing I do know is that it doesn't matter who you are. We're all the same, regardless of how big your house is or what kind of car you drive. And I've had a Mercedes, but I prefer my Honda. But believe me, I really do. It's the best car I've ever had, a Honda. And so just try to be happy, folks, and communicate. Christmas is coming up. Put on that fake smile, and keep the peace. Keep the peace. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've been talking with DeQuana Mack and Stacy Grimm. You can call Family Health Centers at 803-531-6900 and make an appointment, folks, if you need to. Thank you so much. I'm Kathy Andrews. You've been listening to Health Matters.